Hello everyone, welcome to Zaref Game Dev. In this video, I am going to create the DoodleJump game in Unity. So before we start creating the game, if you do like the video and do like the channel, do like and comment on this video and do subscribe to the channel. So this one's going to be the last game for this series, which is the mobile games. So where instead of just coding some functionality, we try to create some gameplay flow, and depending on that, the game's going to be played. It's not pretty much complex, so it's again going to be a beginner type. So let's start creating the game. As you can see, I opened a new project and created a new scene and saved it as a gameplay, and I also added the score text, so it's going to install the text mesh pro. And there is also the game manager created, and it has a game manager script attached to it. So the first thing we'll create, let's create our start screen first. So the score is going to be similar, there's nothing going to be different, but let's attach a start button. So let's attach a UI, and we'll add a button and we'll just call it start. And for this button, let's first delete all the texts, and it's going to be pretty much larger. So for the width, let's set it to 1000, and height, let's set it to 1900. So whenever we tap on the screen, it's going to start the game. And let's change its transparency to 0. So it will also have a title text, and for the title, it's just going to say doodle jump, and let's make it red, and let's increase its size to 128, and bold, centered, and we'll increase the width to 800. So it's just going to be pretty basic text. You can use whatever font you want, and we'll position it towards the top by around 750. So that's where our title text is going to be. Now let's duplicate this title text, and it's going to say tap to start, and we'll make it black, and we'll position it towards the center, and let's just call it start text, and tap to start. And let's also add our image, which is the doodler image. And for the image, let's not call it anything else, and let's add the doodle, and we'll set its size to 250 by 250, and we'll position the tap doodle somewhat around higher. So let's position it 2 units higher. So 250, and tap to start, position it a little bit slower, so negative 250. So whenever the game starts, we are going to see the doodle jump downwards or wherever it may be. Now we have our main camera, it's going to have a camera follow script. So let's create that. And for the canvas, we have our start text. For the main camera, let's attach our background. So let's add our background, and the camera size we need to set to 4, so it fits perfectly. And inside the scene, as you can see, if we attach the background, we should be able to see our camera perfectly fit, and it's also positioned correctly, so there's no need to do anything. And ordering layer, it's going to be backwards, so we'll change ordering layer to -1. So that's our start screen. Let's also create our end screen. So for this, we'll create an empty, and we'll call it end panel. And inside this end panel, first we are going to attach a button. So this one is for the restart button, and it's just going to stay restart, and let's increase the size to 800 by 150, And for the text, let's call it restart, and let's make it white. Let's make it black, and for the size we'll set it to 90. And for the position of the text, we'll position a little bit downwards towards negative 150, and we'll duplicate the restart text and we'll call it quit. And this one will position little bit more towards downwards, so let's position it negative 350. Transition, let's set it to none, and instead of restart, this one is going to just call the quit, and we'll change it to white, so it's going to show our uh, the face color. So these are the restart and the quit buttons. We also have our start button. Now let's create a text. So this text is going to be for the end score. It's going to show our score, and let's call it your score, and let's position it towards the left and towards the center, and let's increase its size to 596 bold. And what was the size of 90? Let's make it 80. And similarly for the end score, we'll set the size to 80, and it's already positioned correctly, but we need to position a little bit towards the left. So let's position at negative 150, and yours spelled incorrectly. And this one will just make it black. And for the Y position, let's position at 350, and similarly we duplicate this end score. Let's position at 150, and instead of your score, it's going to call the best score, and let's call it high score. So we have our both scores. Let's position them so we are able to let's position our high score first. So it's looking good around here, 45. And similarly for the end score, position at 225 or maybe 220. Now towards his right, we'll attach our count text. So it's going to be positioned towards the right. Let's make it 0, and it's position towards the right 0, and let's increase the size to 500 by 150. Font size to 80, and let's make it bold towards the center and center. So here's the problem with the right score. It's towards the left. We need it towards the right. Mm, 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 mm. Okay, so let's position our end score positive 250, so it fits correctly, and we'll position it towards the left. So there's where our score is going to be, and let's add 4 zeros for now, and we'll duplicate this count and parent it to the high score. And this one, if we just change position Y, this are going to show two scores, and you can have something pretty much fancier, but we'll just do it with for now. And outline thickness, uh, let's just do whatever we are. So that's our end screen, and let's hide the end screen. Now we'll show our score text, and the first thing we'll need is our platform. So platform is almost sized correctly. There is no need to change anything. And we'll also add our doodler. So the doodler, we are going to call it as a player. And what should we create first? hmm So let's create our player first. So let's position it a little bit towards upwards, and let's attach a box collider 2D, and let's edit it so it doesn't look much uglier. Where is our player? Let's position it here, and we'll start editing our sprite. And let's change its position to 0 and 2, so we should be able to see it in the screen. So that's our player, and the player is going to also have a rigid body 2D, and the gravity scale is going to be increased to 2. And let's also attach a player script to it. And we'll also, let's just create all the scripts. So the next script we are going to need is to store all the constants, and we'll also need one more script for the spawner. So the spawner is going to spawn all our platforms, and for each of the platform we are going to have our platform script. So we have a platform script, a game manager script, a player script, and that should be it. One, two, three, four, five, six. So six scripts. And for the prefabs, the player is almost pretty much ready. The last thing it's needed is the player script, and there is not going to be anything else needed. And let's start editing our platform. So inside our platform, we'll need box collider 2D, not box collider 2D, edge collider 2D, because it's going to detect collision only from one side. So Unity has a good feature for it. And it'll need the effector, which is going to detect that which direction it is. So let's start editing our platform. So the position is 000. It will need a tag of platform, because we are going to collect the platforms with some, maybe some script. I don't know, whichever it may be. Let's create an edge collider 2D, and as you can see, it's towards the center. Let's increase the edge radius to 0.02, and platform effector 2D, and it needs to be used by effector, so that's how it will look. And let's say in the surface arc 245. And the last thing we are going to need is our platform scripts, and we'll save it as a prefab. And let's delete this. So we have a player ready, and we have our main camera. So let's add a spawner. So let's add a death trigger to it. So let's create an empty and we'll just call it death. And for the x, it's going to be z relative 10, and for the y, it's going to be positioned at -5. So that's where it's going to be. Let's add a box collider to it, set it to trigger, and we'll set the tag to finish. And for the x and the y size, we'll set it to 5 by 0.5. So it's just going to detect for the end whenever the player collides with it. And similarly, let's create an empty and we'll call it spawner. Let's reset its transform and we'll parent it to the main camera. And for the y position, we are going to position it towards -8, and it's going to have a box collider 2D attached to it, which is set to trigger. And next, we'll also need a rigid body 2D because it's going to detect collisions. So for detecting collisions, we'll need a rigid body attached to it. Gravity scale of 0 and the spawner script. So that should be it for our spawner. We have depth, we have background, we have a platform, and we have our player. So now let's start just directly coding because I don't think we don't need anything else. So the first thing we'll code is our constants. For coding, let's go inside Visual Studio and let's code our constants first. So it's a public class of constants, and similarly we'll have a private, but not private, public constant string, and the first string we'll need is a normal, and it's going to be called normal, and we'll just copy this, and next string is the movable, and it's going to be called movable. Copy it again, normal jumping, but we'll just call it jumping. So it's going to add more force to the player whenever it collides. So these are the platform types, and after jumping we have movable jumping. So this one's going to move, but will also have the jumping property. And next up we'll have, I think, breakable. So for this platform, it will just break whenever we collide with it. And what did it open? And the last one we have is the single, which has a single HP. So whenever it collide, it will do effect like a normal platform, but the platform will get destroyed after that collision. And next we'll have public static, and it will be a read only, and it's going to be a list of strings, and let's just call it types, and it's going to be new list of string, and inside this list we are going to add all our platforms, movable, then we have jumping, normal, not normal, movable, jumping, single, and the breakable. Oh, we didn't create the breakable. So okay, we maybe created but deleted it. Doesn't matter. We'll create it again. Breakable. And the last one's the breakable. So this is the list. We'll get a random element from this list and spawn a platform. So to spawn a platform, let's go inside our spawner and let's create a serialized field private game object, and we'll just call it platform prefab, and we'll have one more serialized field private int start platforms. One more serialized field private int offset y, then one more serialized field private float, and offset y is going to be float rather than int, and this one's going to be for the range of x wherever the platform needs to spawn, and the last one's the serialized field private float and start pause y, or maybe just pause y. At the start we'll just assign whatever as is, and inside our start function we'll spawn multiple platforms. So let's call void spawn platform, and here let's create our spawn pose new vector 2, and inside this vector 2 for the x position we are going to pass random dot range, and for the starting position we'll pass the negative range x, and for the ending position we'll pass the positive range x, and for the y position we'll use the pose y. So that's our starting position, and inside after that we'll instantiate our platform prefab. So instantiate platform prefab at the spawn pose and quaternion dot identity, and we'll increase our position y. So how much do we want to increase? It's going to be our offset y that we have created, and new platforms are going to be spawned if collision dot compare tag. So whenever we hit a platform we'll spawn a new platform. So here let's create spawn platform, and we'll destroy the collision.game object, and there will be one error like if the number of platforms created are somewhat like lesser. Whenever we destroy we'll also need to create our spawn platform, so let's add it to public, and inside our uh, start platforms will spawn our platform. So this should start spawning our platforms now, and let's go inside our platform script. So it's maybe let's do the camera follow first. So for the camera to follow, let's create a serialized field private transform, and we'll just call it target, and next step we'll have a serialized field private float, and let's just call it smooth speed, and for the start let's set it to 5f. And we'll have a private vector 3, and it's going to be our end position where we want to move, and the last one is the public pool can follow, and we'll set the can follow uh, directly from the game manager, so we don't need to do it inside of our update awake. So inside the fixed update first we'll check If we cannot follow, then we'll just return. Else, we'll check if transform.position.y is greater than endPos.y. Then we'll return less than, maybe greater than. Okay, so if it's already greater than or whatever it may be, greater than or equal to, then we'll just return. If it is not, then we'll set the transform.position to be v3.lerp, and we are going to lerp from transform.position to end position and smooth speed into time dot fixed delta time. And instead of lerp, let's just use slurp, so it will smooth out the damping. And we'll need a method to tell the camera whenever the position is changing. And here we'll end transform dot position, and we'll change its y position to be the target dot position dot y. And let's add 1.5f. So the player will be a little bit downwards. So that should be it for our camera follow. So now let's start editing our platform script. So inside our platform script, let's create a serialized field, and first one is for the jump force. And after the jump force, let's create a serialized field, private float multiplier, which is for the score. And next up we'll have a serialized field for the private float speed. For the moving platforms, serialized field private float and bounds x. And next we'll have a private string of platform type and a private sprite renderer, and let's just call it SR, and we'll set this up in the awake function. So let's first set the SR to be the get component sprite renderer, and the platform type is going to be constants dot types, and here we'll pass the constants dot types dot count, and constants dot types dot count random dot range from 0 till constants dot types dot count. So it will set the platform to random platform, and depending on our platform type, we'll do multiple things. So the first thing is case constants dot normal, and let's do a break. Then we have one more case, constants dot jumping, and then we'll do a break. Case constants dot movable, break. Case constants dot movable and jumping, and then break. One more case for constants dot breakable, and the last case is for our single HP platform. So we are going to add color for it. So for the normal, let's just sr dot color is equals to white, and it's not going to do much anything else. And similarly for the jumping, sr dot color is going to be red, and jump force will multiply the jump force by 1.5f. And for the movable platform, let's set the color to be blue, and similarly inside our jumping platform, we'll set the color movable jumping to magenta, and we'll also add the jump force, means edit the jump force. And similarly, let's just, for the breakable, I did change to, yep, we'll set the color to be breakable, let's have it black. And similarly for the single HP platform, we'll set it to gray. So that should be it for the colors. And for the movable and the movable jumping, we'll need to start the coroutine, which is the, let's create it enumerator, and we'll call it move platform. And here let's do while true, year return null, and afterwards let's get the position, and if temp dot x is greater than bounds x, or temp dot x is less than negative bounds x, then underscore will multiply the speed by -1, and let's transform dot position plus is equals to right, v3 dot right into speed, so it will rotating towards the left and the right. And that should be it for the movable platform. And let's call our start coroutine move platform, and similarly inside our movable platforms we'll call our start coroutine move platforms. Now for each of the platforms, whenever we collide with our player, so it's going to be on collision enter 2D, and the first thing we are going to check if collision dot game object dot compare tag, and we'll compare tag of the player, and we'll just return. Then the next thing, let's get our rigid body 2D RB, not, let's just call it player RB is going to be collision dot game object dot get component rigid body 2D, and here we'll check if player RB dot velocity dot y is greater than 0, then we'll return. Then if it is not, so we were moving downwards, and we'll switch on a platform type. So let's copy our switch condition here because it includes every case, and instead of setting the color, we'll add player RB dot velocity is going to be new vector 2, and for the x we'll use a player RB dot velocity velocity.x, and for the y we'll use jump force. And similar is going to be for our jumping and our movable jumping. So maybe we can just let's just change it. And similarly, inside our breakable, not the breakable, let's do the single because it's similar. We'll change it here, and then we'll destroy the game object. And before destroying the game object, we'll spawn a new platform. So game object, find object of type, and we'll find our spawner, and we'll call our spawn platform. And similarly, inside our breakable, we'll not change the velocity, but we'll destroy and spawn a new. So that should do the trick for our platform. Now we have almost everything. Now let's change our player. So constants is correct, and inside our player we are going to have so many things. So mm, mm, mm. So let's create a serialized field, private float bounds x. Then we'll have a private rigid body 2D RB, private sprite renderer SR, then private float move input, and next we'll have private float speed, and let's just set it to 10f. And inside our start we'll need to get the RB, get component rigid body 2D, and SR will be the get component sprite renderer. And next we'll have our update loop. Now inside our update loop, let's input dot get axis, and we'll get our horizontal axis. And next we'll do sr dot flip x is equals to rb dot velocity dot x is less than 0. And let's do v3 temp transform dot position, and if temp dot x is less than negative bounds x, then we'll do transform dot translate, and we'll translate positive new vector 2 2 times bounds x and 0. And let's copy this, and instead of less we'll do greater, remove the negative, and it needs to have else condition, and instead of positive we'll do the negative. So that should be it for our update. And our fixed update will change our player's position. So if no input is equals to 0f, then we'll return, else we'll set the rb dot velocity is going to be new vector 2, and here we'll pass move input into speed, and rb dot velocity dot y. And the last condition is going to be for our game end condition. So let's add on trigger enter 2D if collision dot compare tag, and we had a tag of finish for our end condition, and we'll call the game manager dot instance. We'll need to update that, so that should be for our end condition. So instead of game manager, we have almost everything set up correctly. So let's see if all of the code is working. So let's go inside Unity, and the first thing we'll update is our main camera. So let's add our camera follow, and smooth speed is 5, and can follow will set it to true at the beginning. And for the target, we are going to attach our player. Now should that was for our player, and the player just has a bounds x. So let's see what our bounds x should be. 2.5, and after our player will need to attach the platform, and let's start platforms to 20, offset y to 1.5, or maybe a little bit lower, 1.25, range x to 1.8, 1.7, and pause y to -5, and let's update in our platform. So the jump force we are going to use is 10, multiplier of 16, speed of 5, and bounds x of 1.8. So now let's hit play. So the blue ones are moving too fast. So I think that would be problem the time dot fixed delta time in the coroutine. Move platform v3 dot right into time dot delta time. So that should be fixed for a move platform, and our player will need to constraint rotation to the z-axis. So let's see if it is working. Hmm. Our platform is not detecting collisions. Why? Platform as an edge collider 2D. We don't have the tag of the platform. No, we just need to add the tag of the platform. So the tag was not there. Now let's see if our player is moving. So that was a bad one. Mm, mm. PLATFORM. So our platforms are moving, but our players are not moving. Is the collision detection not okay? Our player is also not tagged. So now it should work. So this one's the normal. It got broken, and there we have. The camera movement is a little bit jittery, but what happened to this platform? So everything's almost working correctly. There's there may be some problems, but we'll fix it. 10, 5, 1.8. V3 dot right, speed into time dot delta time. Hmm, hmm, hmm. So let's play it one more time, and let's see. Okay, the jump force was too high. Now for the player, we are not updating the camera whenever the platform is colliding. So we'll need also to change that. And let's fix all the errors. So let's go inside Visual Studio and let's fix our camera error first. So the problem is we have created the update camera, but we are not updating it. So let's fix them up one by one. So the constants should be working correctly. And after the constants, we have our spawner script. So the spawner was not working because our camera was not moving. So for the spawner to work, the script is correct. There is not any problem with it, but we'll need the camera follow called. So for the camera follow to be called, it needs to be called from the player and not the player from the platform, and will pass whenever this condition is triggered. So camera follow was already correct, so there was no need to do anything. But where were we in the camera follow? Inside our platform. Hmm, hmm, hmm. Yep, here. Camera dot main dot get component, and we'll get the camera follow component, and inside the camera follow component we'll update the camera. So that should have it moving. Now the where were we in the platform? The movement was a little bit jittery, so let's see where the problem was. Time into delta time v3 dot right. Transform dot position speed multiply equal to negative 1f. If it is greater than bounds x or less than negative bounds x. Instead of transform dot position, let's do a v3 offset and transform dot translate by offset. Hmm. So that should do the movable platform trick, and now all of our code should be pretty much working. It should be working. So nah, that was some pretty bad luck. Mm, mm, mm. I don't know what happened, but normal content. Okay. So almost all of our platforms are working, but there's some. What is the problem with this platform? This platform is working, but that one is not working. So there should be some problem. Mm, 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 Speed bounds x, jump force multiplier. So let's see if bounds x is correct. Let's reset its transform and let's set the x position to 1.8 is correct. Mm, mm. Mm. If the current position is greater than bounds x, Then we'll multiply the speed by -1f. Or less than negative bounds x. So there should not be any problems, but let's see how we can fix it. So let's hit play, and this platform is working. This red one is also working. Oh, wait, a black one. No, no more blacks. No, no. Ah. So the normal platforms are working correctly. The blue ones are also working. The magenta are also working. Mhm. I think maybe it would be a problem with the spawner, range X and range Y. We set it to 1.7. Doesn't look like that, but it got fixed somehow automatically. I don't know how. Let's play it one more time and see if there's any problems. Oh my god, this will need to change the probability for that, but I won't do it. You guys can if you want to change. And we died once again. So these are different platform types, and we are also able to move the camera, spawn a new platform. It's almost infinite, and there are not any much problems. Oh no, I died. Okay, I don't know where I am getting the moves. There is not much problem. There are moving platforms. And the last thing we need to set up is our game manager. So everything's just hard coding. There is nothing much difference. We'll show and hide a couple of objects, and let's show our start panel and we'll resize our where is our image. Let's resize it to fit. So for the pose Y, let's increase its count and 200 by 195. So is looking good enough. And let's start editing our game manager. So let's go to Visual Studio, and inside Visual Studio, I think, yep, it's almost large enough code, but not large. So the first thing we'll need is the public static, and let's do game manager instance, and let's set it up in the awake. So if instance is equals to null, then instance is equals to this, else we'll just restore the game. So that's for the start or the awake. And let's now create all our properties and fields. So first thing we'll need a serialized field, and it's going to be private game object, the start panel, the score object, and our end panel. And let's add underscore to each of them. And finally we'll also need our player, and after that we'll need our text. So let's do using tm pro, and here we'll have serialized field private tm pro text, and the first one is going to be for our score text, uh and score text, and the last one's for the high score text. So now let's create the rest of the properties. So the first thing we'll need is a private int score, which is a field or maybe property, I don't know. And we'll create, yeah, it's a field, and we'll create a property out of it. And let's add our getter and the setter. So inside the getter, we'll return the score, and inside our setter, uh, we'll set the score to B. What do we need to set it to? The value we are going to pass. And we'll duplicate the whole code two more times. And here, instead of score, we are just going to call it end score. And similarly, end score. And instead of return, we'll return the end score. And we'll change the end score value. And the final ones for our high score. And high score, and return the high score. So these are our two scores, and we are going to change dynamically. So in 1 second or in some amount of seconds, it will change the value. So let's call it update text, and let's pass an integer, and we'll call it final value. And we'll also pass the tmpro text, and let's call it current text. And at the end, we'll set the current text dot text is going to be final value dot toString. And before that, what we are going to do is while. Let's first get the int current value is going to be int dot parse, and it's going to be current text dot text. And let's find the difference. So the difference is going to be uh, cast it to an integer, and what we need to cast to an integer is final value minus current value, and multiply the difference by, let's say, 0.05 and 0.01. And after that, while our current value is less than final value, what we'll do is, well, current value plus is equals to, first we'll check if difference is greater than 0. If it is greater than 0, then we'll use the difference, else we'll use random dot range from 0 till 5. So it will add the current value, and we'll set the current text dot text is going to be current value dot toString, and we'll do the year return new. You wait for seconds, and we'll wait for 0.1 seconds. So everything will be finished in around a second or maybe less than a second, and we'll update the text whenever our property is being updated. So let's do start coroutine, and inside the coroutine we'll pass the value and the score text. Why did I misspell it? Start coroutine, but the coroutine we are going to start is the update text, and inside the update text we are going to pass this values. And similarly, let's copy this line again, and here instead of the score text we'll have the end score text, and similarly inside our score text we'll have the high score text. So it will update like it's increasing. And we set the awake. Now let's set the start. So inside our start, the first thing we'll need is the start panel dot set active to true. Then we won't show the player, set active to false. Score object dot set active to false, and the end panel or dot set active to false. And after that we'll say camera dot main dot get component camera follow dot can follow to false, so we are not following at the start. The score is set to 0 and the end score is set to 0 and our high score is set to 0. So the initial property it is 0. Whenever we update we'll check, and let's do public void update score, and inside our update score we'll pass in current score or the updated value. Nah, so we'll set the score to be the current score, and after that let's do public void game start, and inside our game start uh, we'll first hide our start panel, and we'll show a score object. And we'll also need to show our player, and we'll need to set the camera following to be true, and that should be it. Now whenever the game quit, application.quit and hashtag if we are inside our Unity editor, then we'll do Unity editor dot edit application dot display into false and hashtag and if. And the final ones for the game restart. And here we'll just do Unity engine dot scene management dot scene manager dot load scene, and we'll load the current scene. And the final condition is game end, which is going to be called whenever the player hits the death trigger. So we'll destroy our player after 2 seconds, and camera, let's just copy this, and instead of true we'll set to false, and we'll hide the score and show the end panel. We'll update the end score to be the score, and let's just get player prefs dot ASCII. If it has the high score, then we'll set it to player prefs dot getInt, and we'll get the high score. else will mm, set it to maybe 0. Yep. Oh no, not 0. What do we need to set it to? Score. The current score we have scored. If you don't have it, the high score is the current score. And if our score is greater than our high score, then the high score will be set to high score, not high score, score. And at the end, we'll set the high score to be high score. It will automatically set it. So that should do all the tricks. Now, whenever we collide with the platform, we'll need to increase our players, what do you call it as? Player whenever it collides with the finish game manager dot instance dot game end, and the platform game manager dot instance dot update score, and for the value we are going to pass the casted to an integer transform dot position dot y multiplied by the multiplier, and let's do a big bracket. So this should update the score, and let's now go into Unity, and the game should be almost pretty much finished. We'll just need to fix up all our the start panel, then we have our score object, the end panel, our player, and then we have our score text, and inside our end panel we have our end score text, which is the count, and our high score text, which is the count. And for the start we'll add the game start functionality, and for the restart we'll add the game restart functionality, and for the quit we'll add the game quit functionality. And let's now hit play, and there should not be any errors. So tap to start, and there's are some the requested operation caused a stack overflow. What happened? I enumerator while. Okay, we don't need it to be true. Hmm? Mhm, mhm, mhm. So let's hit play, and the requested operation caused a stack overflow. Game manager dot set end score. So there was some problem with the end score. Okay, dokie. And score to 0. And here we didn't change the end score count, which is the 0 0. Now let's hit play, and we'll tap to start. The score is updating. The blacks are pretty much bad, and our game's going to end. Again, we caused a stack overflow. Let's restart, and quit are not working. Best score is 0. So let's set it to 0 and count also set it to 0. And similarly for our score, let's also set it to 0 because we are doing it in dot parse. So if there are 4 zeros, it will Unity won't like it. And if our game ends, the requested operation caused a stack overflow. Create string. Okay. So the restart and the quit we won't be able to use. And let's now fix it because that's what we are going to do. So why did it cause a stack overflow? Current text dot text. Current value. If it is greater than 0, then we'll use the difference or we'll use the random dot range from 0 to 5. So let's hit play and let's see if it's causing again. No problem, and the game needs to end. I know set and score text value update text. Okay, of course it's going to be. So the problem was, let me show you. Okay, I'm already inside Visual Studio. End score is calling end score. So we need to call the score, and here we are calling the high score. And yep, now there should not be any problem. So that was the only problem. And let's now hit play and let the game end. So we are going to restart. The game is restarting. The game is also able to quit. And the start condition is also pretty much bad. And again, we'll lose. And let's restart. So we are having some pretty good levels. No black. So as you can see, we are able to play the game. Uh, we are also able to move around the bounds. So yeah, we lose. And as you can see, the score is increasing like in the increased count. So that was it for this video. If you did like the video, do comment on the video and do like the also like the video and also comment on the video. And if you want to see more videos, subscribe to my channel. And this should be the beginners playlist, so if you have any more games you want to try, you can refer to the playlist and I'll be creating more advanced content next. So I don't know which games I'll be creating, but around 1 or 2 months later we'll be creating some not big enough, but we'll be creating some good enough games. And do subscribe to the channel. And thank you for watching. See you guys in the next video.